Coastal Championship Wrestling in South Florida, Miami, celebrating Cinco de Mayo at COYO Taco. One of the main wrestlers on the card is Jesus Rodriguez. You may remember him as WWE's Ricardo Rodriguez, but now he's making his own mark as Jesus Rodriguez. Jesus, thank you so much. And what made you decide to become a professional wrestler?
Well, growing up, and obviously as a Mexican American, I was born and raised on Lucha Libre, the Mexican style. There was something about the masks, the flying around, the capes, made it almost like a superhero for us on our side of the culture. So definitely that was probably the biggest influence for me. And not only that, actually here tonight is one of the guys I used to watch a lot growing up in Máscara Sagrada. I was such a big fan of Máscara Sagrada. So for me to meet him finally after watching for basically my whole life, to me it was very surreal.
Where did you grow up?
Born and raised in Los Angeles, California. I was actually born in Burbank, California, which is obviously within Los Angeles County. Yeah, born and raised, and then when I was 24, when I got signed by WWE, I moved to Florida, which is where I'm at now.
And where did you go to high school out in Burbank?
Well, actually, no, I went to Van Nuys High School. I went to Van Nuys High School, and actually Paul Abdul went to that high school as well, and I believe Marilyn Monroe as well, I believe.
Did you play any sports in high school?
Yes, I played soccer. I played soccer my whole life. Unfortunately, I had an accident when I was 16 where I broke both my legs, so that kind of took me out of soccer. And then that's eventually how I kind of transitioned into pro wrestling, watching it when I was being stuck at home, and then randomly just turning on the TV and saying, hey, pro wrestling, American pro wrestling. So I got into it that way, and then when I got back, my high school, for a very short time, had amateur wrestling, so I joined that for a little bit. But due to lack of funding, they had to cut the classes.
So then how did you get to high school? Did you go to college, or did you just get into pro wrestling right after that?
No, I actually went to a trade school. I went to ITT Tech, in which I got my degree in multimedia and design. So I did graphic design prior to WWE. That was my job in between, during the week, before I went and got beat up all over the country. The weekend. So during the week, I was a graphic designer, which I still do from time to time. I make my own merchandise. I make my own, DVDs, posters, whatever. I make all that stuff for myself because that's all I did, graphic design. So me and Photoshop are like this. We're so close.
How did you get into professional wrestling then?
One of my teammates in amateur wrestling, wrestling, was a big fan of pro wrestling. Which, obviously if you come from amateur and then you watch pro wrestling, in your mind you're like, what is this? This is not real, this is fake. And then he invited me to his house one day to watch WrestleMania 17. And actually specifically the match that got me hooked on American pro wrestling, or back into pro wrestling, was TLC, in which the Hardy Boys, Edge and Christian, and the Dudley Boys were in the match, and the precise moment was when Jeff Hardy was hanging from the titles and Edge speared him. That was the precise moment that made me go, I want to do this, I want to try this. And then from there, I discovered Eddie Guerrero, I discovered Jericho, and I discovered Dean Malenko, and that just kind of opened up a whole new set of doors for me. So that's what got me going.
When did you get your initial training, and where then? How do you find that? Do you just
thankfully in Los Angeles, just through the power of the internet, and through the power of going to random independent shows, and then socializing, and I think that's something that helped me out a lot too. That one of my previous jobs, I was a customer service representative, so I was constantly talking to people, like, hey, how to smooth talk somebody into, hey, don't disconnect our service, stay with us, right? so that definitely, those social skills definitely helped, and then just socializing and networking, and then going to this guy, and then, hey, we have a school with such and such. So I started training in early 2006, and then had my first match in July 26, I believe, of 2006. That's when I had my first match.
Where was it?
It was in Santa Paula, California. It was me and one of my buddies who we used to do backyard wrestling together, that we ended up getting trained together, so we ended up doing a match together. It was a lot of fun. I go back and watch it, and could have been a lot better.
Hey, it was the first one. That's all right. It was the first one. So, what school or what group were you with then at that time? You first got started.
Here's the thing. In Los Angeles, there's so many schools, there's so many academies, there's so many people that you can get connected with. The very first set of trainers that I had were these guys, these Lucha guys. They used to go under the name of Los Luchas. They used to go under the name of Los Luchas, Soccer Phoenix, and Phoenix Star, Nemesis. They were also in the same. They were also in the same group with Joey Ryan, Cobra Sky, T.J. Perkins. They were in the same group. So that's where initially I started. From there, I ended up meeting another man, a professional wrestler from Mexico, named Latigo Blanco, who, short little Mexican brown dude, he beat the living bejesus out of me for 6 months. And then eventually he ended up taking me to Mexico. He ended up taking me, all over California. So
that was a big break for you,
yeah,
right there.
for sure. So I went to many different places to train.
Then how do you get your big break and land in WWE?
I had been wrestling internationally, thankfully, but on my own for 4 years prior to WWE. So I had already experienced internationally, in Europe and Canada, over the States, Mexico, and all that stuff. And then through wrestling and just making connections, I ended up meeting this guy, promoter, longtime promoter in San Bernardino, California, named Jesse Hernandez. Who I wrestled for him once, and then after the show he comes and asks me, hey, WWE's coming to town, they're looking for luchadors, are you interested? Which obviously I said yes. And at the time I was actually training with Gangrel, Rikishi, Black Pearl, Orlando Jordan over at Knox Pro in Burbank. But through Jesse Hernandez, he's the one that got me my tryout. And in that same tryout, Joey Ryan was in it, Rusev was in it, Alex Kozlov was in it from AAA, Ring of Honor in Japan. So we were all in the same tryout, and myself, Alexander Rusev, and Alex Kozlov all got signed at the same time. But because of visas for them, they had to wait a little longer. So. But for me it was a little different because I got sent straight to the main roster. I didn't do FCW first. I got sent right to, I got signed that same day, and then the next week I was on Raw doing the announcing gimmick. So that's kind of how I went backwards almost.
When you were going to be an announcer, did you do any training, preparing by watching ring announcers, by getting the shtick down?
No, not at all. The ironic part was that once I started wrestling, I tried to model myself after Great Muta, which he never talked. So to me, I never did promos. The way I saw myself was just be aggressive and just be, mysterious and lurk and whatever, all that stuff. So he never talked. So to me, I was like, I don't want to talk. I don't know how to talk. I'm not going to talk. So the ironic part was that I got hired to talk, not to wrestle. So given what they told me, they wanted me to be very animated. So I started thinking of the announcers from AAA in Mexico, which are very animated, very loud, and make everything bigger than what they really are, just to get excited. So that's the only thing I had in the back of my head, because when I first did the ring announcing thing, it just happened out of nowhere. They're like, okay, hey, we're gonna use you for this on SmackDown. Get ready. And I was like, oh, okay, all right, cool. So as far as preparation, I really didn't have much preparation. Just kind of like, hey, go swim, throw you into the water, and thankfully it worked out. Thankfully. Yeah,
it worked out great. I mean, did you even surprise yourself after how quickly and how well it went? And were you even in asking, hey, is that what you wanted? Did that look good?
Because I was so nervous and so scared, honestly, I didn't really ask him, hey, is that okay? I just kind of was like, oh, thank you, sir, Vince, thank you, sir. My agent, Malenko, and all them. I was like, thank you, sir. I was sitting with Alberto, I was like, thank you, sir. I didn't know what to do. I was brand new. It was the first time I ever went to WWE. The first time I did my tryout, and then this happened. So for me, it was very nerve-wracking for sure. And then. Obviously, the main priority was getting Alberto, connected with the fans and as a heel. So I was kind of secondary, and I understand. I completely understand. I probably would have done the same, right? Because you want to make sure your main guy is being portrayed properly. And as time went on, they started throwing me into more situations, and then thankfully, through my pro wrestling experience, I was able to, fall correctly, take punches the right way, take kicks the right way, take 619s the right way, whatever they needed me to do.
Learn the hard camera?
Right. Well, that I actually had experience through Gangrel over at Knox Pro. I had experience. They would constantly tell us hard camera, work the cameras. So I learned from Gangrel. which I owe him so much because of it. So yeah, it was definitely an experience for me.
And what was it like working with Alberto?
Oh, amazing, amazing. When I first got there, like I knew the name, I'm sorry, I knew the face, I just couldn't pinpoint from where. And then eventually I contacted a friend of mine. I was like, hey, you know, do a little background, because he's a big fan. So I was like, do a little background, and he told me who he was. He was like, Dos Guys Jr. I was like, oh, Jesus. Right, so that's when like the little kid in me, I was like, oh, hello, sir. Right, but after that, like, no, we connected, we bonded, we rode together, we were together basically all the time when we were on the road, and I really do think that transcended properly on screen. The friendship, you know, the bond that you grow, you know, it's kind of, and when you spend so much time with somebody. Right, you know, you create this bond with them, you know, because you go through the bad. It's
a relationship,
exactly,
basically.
It is, and I think, and I would like to think that showed when we were on camera, you know. So, but to me, it was great, and he's still one of my best friends. I still talk to him. You know, I just talked to him a couple of days ago. You know, just say hello, and it was great. It was a lot of fun for me.
How do you describe then your time in WWE?
It was good when it was good. It really was. I mean, I'm thankful for everything they gave me, for the opportunities, for, you know, I mean, I did 4 WrestleManias, and I got to travel the world with them. I probably wouldn't be here today if it wasn't for my time there. So I'm beyond grateful. Yeah, granted, some things didn't go, you know, the way I was hoping towards the end, but, you know, it was an experience for sure. But I'm beyond thankful for everything. I really am.
What are you doing now as far as just wrestling? You're out there a lot wrestling
yes.
all over. Are you training people as well?
Yes, I'm actually in. I help run a school I help run a school in Orlando, where I live. Team Vision Dojo. I believe in wrestling, which is actually owned by Larry Zbyszko, but we're the ones that, you know, run it. So myself, this guy Jason Rance, Aaron Epic. It's the 3 of us that constantly run it. So
that's a good school up in Orlando.
Yeah,
there's a lot of students up there, men and women. Right. There are a lot of women training up there too. Santana Garrett trained up there.
Beautiful and talented Santana Garrett, she's there. We have a lot of students that come and go from there, you know, and make something out of themselves, which is great. I think the advantage that we have is that we have so many connections as far as the independent circuit. So like whenever, say, the TNA guys want to come in and work out a little extra, they come to us, you know, say, a recently released NXT guy, you know, that wants to train, they come to us. If the Evolve guys come in for Evolve, they come there to our school to work out. If somebody's in town and wants to run a seminar,